What is this year, boys? I am absolutely getting vindicated on absolutely every opinion I have done in the past 2 years. What is going on? Ubisoft's bankruptcy, Assassin's Creed Shadows underselling things, Dragon Age Railguard, Ghost of Yote, Xbox and its decision to buy Bethesda and a Microsoft, the downfall of Mudahar, the downfall of Pirate Software, all of this stuff, by the way, I called it, and I was right. Man, I really do see the future, huh? But in any case, now my absolute most favorite one, because this vindicates me on a professional level, which feels really nice. Not gonna lie. Thank you, everyone. But I would like to remind everyone that more than a year ago, when Bethesda announced that it's going to get bought by Microsoft, when Activision Blizzard got bought by Microsoft, was it a year or 2 years ago now? I don't remember. In any case, I literally predicted exactly this scenario. Exactly this. Exactly this headline. I will compose myself, but you need to understand I feel very vindicated and very happy about these outcomes because obviously, in any case, if you don't know what's currently happening, Bloomberg is reporting that Microsoft reportedly estimates that Game Pass led to a 30 million loss in sales for Black Ops 6, with 82% of copies being sold on the Game Pass. Less PlayStation 5. No idea what less PlayStation 5 honestly means, but nothing gets sold on Game Pass. Game Pass, my friend. That's a lie. Nothing gets sold on Game Pass. It's not even a real thing, okay? But I called exactly this thing out when Microsoft announced that Xbox is gonna have Call of Duty, the most popular game, or was it like the second most popular or the most popular FPS game on in the world or something like that? It was a juggernaut. It still technically is. When they said that, I said, wow, this means two things. One, Game Pass is doing horribly because there's no fucking way you're putting literally one of the biggest franchises in all of gaming on something that's free. Second of all, this is gonna destroy the sales of this thing and not be even a boon for Game Pass. Because let's face it, what honestly can happen when you have a franchise that's fans are gonna buy it every year no matter how woke of a slop fiesta it is? Well, now with Battlefield 6, I guess things could slightly turn around if we're being real. But, hard to tell just at this point. We're gonna have to wait into the future to get more information on that. But in any case, what do you think is gonna happen when you put that shit on Game Pass for free when it's $20? Of course people are not gonna buy Call of Duty. Of course you're gonna lose 60% of your revenue off of that garbage because people are not buying Call of Duty. They're just playing it on Game Pass. Of course, what do you think was gonna happen? And most people who are playing Call of Duty, this is the joke, right? This is the actual thing. They already have probably Game Pass. Those people probably have Game Pass because most Call of Duty players are playing it with a controller. Controller! Do you think they're fucking playing it on the PC and just plugging in their controller? No, but they're playing it on a controller because they're console players. And if you're a console slot player, that means that you're an Xbox Game Pass player. So you're trying to sell Call of Duty 6 to an audience that already has your product. Of course things are gonna turn out horribly. Of course shit's gonna hit the fan real hard. Of course it's gonna be a disaster. Like, there's literally no other way to put this. Anything else but a disaster would have blown my mind, honestly. And Microsoft reportedly is, because of this, by the way, all of this, the Game Pass price increase, all of this is effectively a Call of Duty tax, okay? Boys, PlayStation has its Concord tax, well, Xbox has its Call of Duty tax. You can't make this shit up, can you? I mean, fantasy is never more fantastical than what real life actually provides, is it? It's absolutely true. Fantasy is less fantastical than the bullshit on real life. So Xbox is now gonna be adding a free-to-use cloud thing where it's the main objective of that is just gonna be to push as many ads in your face as possible. Obviously, since Xbox and Game Pass are trying to be the Netflix, you know, an already fucking retarded product that constantly is trying to put ads in people's faces. By the way, which was obviously predictable. Though, even though this was predictable, I never talked about this. But yes, obviously, the whole ecosystem of these subscription things is at some point they're gonna put ads in your games. Like, that's an inevitability that all of these companies want to do because they want to be Netflix, and Netflix constantly does this. Okay, so here's the Netflix default tier. It has no ads and has stuff on it. A little bit time passes, now there's Netflix Plus. It has no ads because now the default tier has ads and some other bullshit that you don't care about. Okay, now there's Netflix Deluxe that has no ads because now that previous Netflix Plus tier has ads. You see where I'm going here? Are you picking down? Are you picking up what I'm picking down? What a metaphor. In any case, that's the inevitable thing. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure I never talked about this because I would never care to actually predict something like this, even though I should have, okay? I need to make a video where I just predict all the fucking shit in one place so I can have a literal, hey, here's all the stuff that I know that's gonna happen, and it did happen. But in any case, obviously that something needed to happen with Call of fucking Duty. Microsoft literally spent. Let's start with Bethesda. Microsoft literally spent 8 billion, not million, not 800 million, but billion. That's a whole extra zero after 100 million. So that's a lot of money. 8 billion on Bethesda to effectively purchase Starfield, technically. I paid like $40 for Starfield. Most people paid $0 for Starfield. But Microsoft found a way to pay $8 billion for Starfield. That has to be one of the dumbest, stupidest shit moves I have ever seen in business history. But wait, there's more. Because then Microsoft, in the desperation of not having any games, decided, you know what, we're gonna buy Blizzard. Oh yeah, Blizzard. The company that has been burning its good fate for literally years now at an astonishingly high rate. I have to check this text because maybe it's a girl sending me pics. It's just a GIF. Okay, she'll send me pics later. Okay, I need it. It was burning my head. Okay. In any case, back to Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard. Okay, so they bought a company that was literally burning all the goodwill it had accumulated over decades, and it was burning at an incredibly astonishing rate. World of Warcraft had been on a huge decline literally for, I don't know, the past 15 years or something at this point, because they never shared the numbers, because the numbers are really bad, so obviously they don't share it. StarCraft's dead. Warcraft 3 doesn't exist. Diablo's a failing franchise, and Diablo 4 is fucking hated. And Microsoft decided they're gonna spend 80 billion on Activision Blizzard, mainly to acquire Call of Duty, in my opinion. And now, well, they kept making Vogue slop, and no one likes Call of Duty 7 because it looks dumb, plus it's Vogue. So there you go. Mainly it looks dumb, okay? The stupid fucking woman with the tattoos for no reason because she's probably a tribal Cherokee Indian or some shit like that. Who honestly cares about that, right? But still, it's bad. And they finally have some competition because Battlefield 6 is doing something. That's great. That means that, I mean, everything that Microsoft has done has been an objectively bad strategy, an objective failure in practice above everything else, and it does not seem like it's going to get better. So, yes, they need to increase the Game Pass sales because they're not recuperating any money from buying Bethesda and, most importantly, buying, obviously, Blizzard. So they need to do something. And when you cannot acquire new customers because you're retarded, well, I guess you just increase the price of things because that's the only thing that you can do. And here we are. Now, granted, considering Game Pass was already for years a failing process, because let me explain. This is probably the biggest part of the video. I should have started with this maybe, but who cares? If you're around, sound off in the comments and like the video, hyped up on a mobile device because it takes less than a second. I greatly appreciate all of you. And if you think the stuff that we talk about here is important and more people should know about it, definitely like the video right now or hype it up if you're on a mobile device because that guarantees that more people will see it. 100% guarantee. Your decisions to like the video actually matter, boys. They really do. And I like it. Thank you. But in any case, the Game Pass model is fucking retarded. I honestly, one thing that I did get wrong was the fact that I thought that Netflix is gonna crash and burn. Netflix is not crashing and burning. It doesn't matter even if the stock is currently like minus 5% because Elon Musk said on Twitter, stop Netflix subscriptions because once again, people figured out that Netflix is trying to make your children into woke lunatics with their propaganda shows. Every year, people figured this one out. But besides that, the reason Netflix has survived is something that I never expected. Because it actually has competition. And I talked about this in yesterday's video, but stuff like Netflix is things where we actually do want monopolies. Because it's just annoying having Netflix, Peacock, Hulu. I personally pirate shit. That's a joke, YouTube. That's a joke. That's a joke, obviously. I would never do anything wrong, obviously. Obviously. In any case. That's still a joke. Still a joke. It's just there for show. It doesn't even work. Who knows what that is? Anyway. Netflix survived because it actually has competition in a sense. Even though its competition is shitty, people still actually need to choose what they want to do or buy everything. Netflix, Hulu, Peacock, your mom's used underwear, everything. And well, Netflix is winning because you can't have everything on one platform. Which means people have to choose which platform they go for. But Game Pass doesn't really have an equivalent. People can just leave and not lose anything because, I mean, they have other options. For Netflix, they don't have another option. If you want to watch a good show, you have to subscribe to that platform, at least to watch that show, which is annoying and stupid. But kind of still pretty easy because, you know, it's just a one click. They have your information, all of that stuff. So it's easy. And it works out for Netflix, and that's why they haven't collapsed. Which, again, I did not expect. I thought that Netflix is going to collapse because they simply will not have enough value. But turns out because every other platform doesn't have enough value, or there's some show at least worth watching on every platform, it kind of works out. But Game Pass doesn't have that luxury. Game Pass absolutely doesn't have that luxury because, unlike Netflix, these games are not only sold on Game Passes. You have to actually value the risks of putting something big on Game Pass or selling it as a separate thing. And the thing about it, everything that they put on Game Pass is objectively a loss. But if you want to keep the people on Game Pass, you have to put stuff on Game Pass, which is the irony of this situation. To keep people interested in Game Pass, you need to sacrifice effectively games that would probably sell decently or at least sell a couple of copies for full price just to satisfy the hunger of the beast, because if you don't have actually AAA games on Game Pass, then what's the point of having Game Pass? No one cares about the double fucking A experience, especially now that it's $30, okay? Every non-AAA game that you want to play on Game Pass, at this point you're better off just fucking buying. That's the reality. You're just better off buying it. So Game Pass needs these AAA games to keep people interested in actually having Game Pass. But the moment that they put Call of Duty, as we can see, they just lose fucking money. But without Call of Duty, people are not gonna use Game Pass. But why would but people who play Call of Duty already have Game Pass, so this doesn't actually grow the people as they wanted, because Microsoft intended to put Call of Duty on Game Pass and get a bunch of new people flooding in Game Pass and then keeping it with their value, which doesn't exist, obviously. And that fucking backfired tremendously. Because everyone who plays Call of Duty already has Game Pass. So they effectively made something that was gonna make them $70 a pop be effectively free for the people because they already have Game Pass. And this is how they're losing a lot of money. And there's no other way. You need to do this. Otherwise you keep losing Game Pass subscriptions and that loses even more money. So for gaming, these Game Pass bullshits are unsustainable. All roads to lead just directly lead to unsustainability, which is hilarious. In any case, that's pretty much it. Microsoft is, as the kids would say, cooked, and rightfully so because they're idiots. They spent 80 billion on fucking failing games to increase Game Pass with a game that already everyone's gonna use on Game Pass for free because they already use Game Pass. Geniuses. Anyway, 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Bye!